Hello, welcome to the very first Resolve and Fusion beginner course. I'm gonna show you today how to do basic editing, how to do basic Fusion compositing, and kind of like get you started with node editing in general, because Fusion uses nodes and we just gotta have a little bit of a basic understanding of how nodes work to be able to use it. So yeah, let me just quickly switch to the desktop. I'm gonna start Resolve here. I've got my handy dandy notes here. You can see what we're going to go through today. Starting with the project manager, project settings, the interface, the media page, and then all the different pages. And then getting a little bit more into depth with how to work with 3D rendered footage, since a lot of the community here is 3D artists. So just to like show them how to work with multi-layer EXRs and stuff like that. Alright, so we got Resolve here. So first of all, this is what you're greeted with when you start Resolve, right? This is the project manager, and this is where all your projects live. Something important to understand with Resolve is that Resolve doesn't have project files. So you can't really, like when you create a new project, it's it is saved on your hard drive, but not as a project file that you can just send around. It's part of this project manager. So it's a little bit different than other tools like After Effects or wait, what was the other name? Here, Premiere, of course, Premiere. So it's a bit different than them. The way to kind of like export and import project files would be you like select one of the projects you want to send to a friend or whatever, and you do right click and you click on export project. So this way you can just save a normal project file, save it wherever you want to, and then if your friend gets it, he needs to import it into Resolve, either by right clicking here and import project, or just drag and dropping it into this window here. Something else that's really cool is you can export a project archive. That means it exports all the media that's part of this project with it too. So this makes it super easy to send projects to, I don't know, like the post-production team or the audio team. So they get all the files they need and they can start working and collaborate with you. Yeah, let me see. Did I mention everything I want to mention here? Oh yeah, okay. And lastly, I mean, not lastly, like I could go into more detail on this page, but I'll just stick with the basics for now. Later, when we go into the... Oh yeah, actually, the first hour now, I'm going to show you guys all the basics, really like the basic knowledge. And then the second hour, we can go into depth into anything you want to know. Oh, Samia, what's up? What's up? Nice that you could join. All right, now, how to create a new project, right? Like you can just click down here, create a new project, and then it will ask you for a name. But what I like to do, because simple and it's also easy to just like play around, experiment things, you can just click on Untitled Project. You could just open this, because Untitled Project is basically a new project and it's always there. Like there's always an Untitled Project, and if you just double click on it, it opens up Resolve and you can just start playing around. So you don't need to save, like create a new project for every little experiment you want to do. So yeah, I like that a lot. Alright, so let's go into, before we go into the user interface here, you gotta make sure that the project you work on has the correct settings. Because in Resolve, it's a little bit annoying to change project settings afterwards. So what I mean with project settings mostly is the resolution and frame rate. So for that, you can click on this little cog on the bottom right here, the project settings, and then you just want to make sure that the resolution and the timeline frame rate is what you want to work in, because this will save you a lot of headaches later on when you create new timelines or when you import image sequences and stuff like that. So yeah, just keep it like that. There's actually a quick little button if you want to work, if you're working for social media content, you can just activate this, use vertical resolution, and you will get a vertical video. So yeah, just a quick way to switch to social content basically. All right, save that. And now let's go into the interface. So, first of all, I'm going to show you the top, because every page has these buttons on the top here. And these are basically like main tools for each page. Maybe just to like tell you that too right now, the pages are on the bottom here, and these are basically the different workflows. So yeah, you've got media, cut, edit, fusion, color, flare, light, and deliver. I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail down the road about these, but for now, we're in the cut page. This is the standard page that opens up when you open Resolve, and it's a page for just like very efficiently and quickly assemble and edit. Okay, but on the top here you see these main tool buttons, and these open up new kind of panels, I would say. So you see the inspector. This one gives you kind of like settings for your selected file. Quick export lets you quickly export your edit. Full screen enables full screen. You can close the inspector again too if you like. Your media pool, you cannot close the media pool, but you can switch it to a sync bin. You can switch it to transitions. You can switch it to titles, to effects. So yeah, this basically just changes a little bit of the layout and how you want to use it. So let us go into the media page. This is one of the main part, but this is something you're probably gonna start your project on because you need to have media to be able to work on something, right? So yeah, I'm just gonna do that. And something that you might notice, I already have some favorites here. And the favorites is actually something that I rarely see people use, but I use it all the time because I think it's super useful. And what I use it for mostly is, for example, I'm going to use Judy May's music video here as an example. So I'm going to favorite it, right? So add to folder to favorites. And I basically have my current projects that I'm working on as favorites. And what that lets me do is I can just quickly drag and drop this folder into my master folder in the media bin, media pool. Oh yeah, basically the top here, this is your computer, right? Like this is basically like a file explorer. And the bottom here, this is what is in your project. So yeah, you can kind of like drag and drop footage and whatever you want in your project from the top into the bottom here. And you see it kind of like replicated the folder structure that I have for this project. And what's good about that, in my opinion, is that you don't need to do structures 2 times, right? Like you only need to do your folder structure and then Resolve will copy that structure. There's sadly not a way that I'm aware of now that kind of like syncs the folder that you have on your PC and the one that you have in Resolve automatically. So what I like to do is, that's also where the favorites come in play, right? So for example, if I have a new file, like if I have a new footage or a new image, in my project, right? Like I'm going in here, let me just, I don't know, like a work in progress thing. So I've got I've got some new footage in here, and then in Resolve, I can just drag and drop this in again, and it will only import the new files. It will skip all the files that are already in the project, and it will only import the new ones, right? So in work in progress, now we have this one, which is the new file. So yeah, this is just a little workflow tip from me that I like to use to like keep things organized and synced between the PC and your project. All right. Okay, so let's get into the cut page again, because now we have all our footage in, and we can open this little side panel here to look through our different folders. I'm going to go in footage, and then I'm just going to use the VFX Convert folder here. And now something that's really useful is that you can, wait, it usually looks like this. Okay, so yeah, you have some different views here in this kind of like playback area here. If you switch to the middle button here, you have, wait a second, now I only see one. One sec. Footage, VFX Convert, okay, here we go. So you have all the footage basically in this one timeline, and you can just like quickly go through it and look for, yeah, search for what you're looking for. Instead of like having to like go through the different folders here, through the different files here, you just have everything already in one timeline basically. You can just scrub through and yeah, get what you need. There's also a single mode where you can just just have like single shots here, and just like hovering over them will reveal kind of like what is in that shot, right? Yeah, and then let's just get some footage in here. So for example, I got this shot here, right? And you can already put in points and out points for those shots in this viewer here. You can do that with I and with O. So that way you get an in point and out point, and then you can simply drag and drop this into the timeline. Right, so yeah, like this. So now we have the timeline. Oh, it's not playing back very quickly. Let me see if we can make it play back quicker by going into playback and timeline proxy resolution half. So this way it should only play like half of the pixels and therefore make it quicker. Yeah, it's a little quicker. Okay, should be fine for now. Alright, and what you notice is that we have kind of like these two timelines here, and they're actually the same timeline, but this one is like a zoomed out version of the edit where you see everything, and this one is a zoomed in version where you see, yeah, like the details of what you're editing with here. So I'm just gonna drag in a few more, and you see like it does most of the things automatically, right? Like it doesn't let you place things like all the way to the side. It's just like this cut page is just here to quickly move things together. So yeah, to just build a rough edit, this page is really good for that. And you can also see that if I go in here, down here, and I reduce the time, like I cut off the start of this clip, everything automatically snaps together. So there's no holes in the edit or anything like that. So I can just look at this and then like drop it off again. Something you might have also noticed is very useful is that if you do one of these edits, on the top here, it shows you kind of like where one clip ends and where the other begins. Like it shows you the last frame of the first clip and the first frame of the next clip, which can be really useful to like get a smooth flowing edit working. So yeah, I think that should be good for the cut page, because yeah, this is really just to like get a rough edit in there, and then if you want to do anything finer, you would go into the edit page. So and here we have a little bit more space to move around and a little more freedom to look at stuff. And we can also now move clips around however we want to. Like they're still snapping to other clips, but they're not locked into anything, so we can like place them wherever we want. But there's a tool that I would really recommend you use, because the standard tool here, this selection mode, this lets you move around clips, and it lets you kind of like change the edit point and also trim the clip's start and end point. Which is fine, like you can totally work like this, but the trim edit tool is actually where it's at. Like the trim edit tool does a lot of functionality in one tool. So for example, what we had in the cut page, if we change the starting in point of a clip, it automatically cuts it so it doesn't leave any empty space, right? And we can also, if we just click on the clip itself, we can change the kind of like the what's inside of the clip. Maybe it's a bit more visible here. So kind of like we see we're changing this in point and the out point at the same time, which is really cool because like on the top here, like this is basically the in point of the current clip, the out point of the current clip, like the first frame, the last frame, and this is the last frame before this clip, and this is the first frame like after the clip. So you can really see kind of like where this clip is positioned in the edit just through looking at that page. So it's a lot of information at once, which is really useful. And then we also, if we don't click and drag here, if we click and drag here, we change the position in the timeline, which is also pretty useful, where you can see like the information of the clip stays the same. Like we have the same in and out point, we only change the position like depending on the clips that comes before it and after it. So yeah, extremely useful, very, very useful. Something that's also worth mentioning is that you can see like if we go into our media pool and like scrub through these clips, this viewer turns into a viewer for these clips. And if we play here, it turns to a viewer into this. But if we want to keep looking, like if we want to see the image that we have here and then find like a fitting shot from the media pool, we can split the viewer with this button here. That way we keep the edit on the right side and we can look at new shots on the left side. So this can be very helpful for finding the correct shot for the, I don't know, like for the shot we have right now, and we want to figure out what comes after. So yeah, pretty useful stuff. And something that's also really cool is in the media pool, you can see this red bar underneath each clip. This kind of like indicates what we already have in the edit, which is really useful. So you always can really quickly tell which clips you already use and what part of them. So you don't run into the problem where you show the same clip multiple times, or you're wondering if you get the most out of your footage, because you can see it very quickly here. All right, let's go into the inspector on this page. If we open it up, we get all these options for each clip. And like some standards are zoom, for example, right? Like we can zoom in and out, we can position it, we can rotate it. So all these informations, all these data we can change here. We can also flip very easily. We can crop. I'm not going to go into everything, but like there's really a lot of useful tools here. We can also stabilize. But the easier way actually to change the transformation of a clip is by activating this button here. Let me close the media pool. So if we click this button, we get a viewport indication of the transformation, right? So you can even quicker just like move this around, rescale it, rotate it. Yeah, very quick and easy, very quick and easy. And we can actually change this overlay tool. So right now we have the transformation, right? But we can also have the crop. And that way we can just like crop this side, or we can like crop from this corner. Yeah, we just have a bunch of tools right here. Something that's really cool that I use a lot of times, and I don't see people using it much, is dynamic zoom. And that's a really cool tool because, let me go into a clip that doesn't have any movement. Yeah, I guess this clip. So for example, we can activate dynamic zoom, and now we get these two windows here. And the green window is basically what this clip starts on, and the red window is where it stops. So basically we will get a zoom now from the green window to the red window. If I play it back, you can see it's zooming out. But something is not working correct. I think that might be because of the timeline resolution here. Yeah. Okay, now it's working correct. So imagine like I want to have like a zoom out from her mouth to like the full screen. So if I play it back now, we get exactly that. So yeah, this is just like a super quick and easy way to get digital zooms into your edit. And it also this is super easy and helpful to get some movements, some more excitement into your edit. All right, so let's move on to the Fusion page now, because I feel like I showed you kind of like the basics of the editing now. Like you should be able to get things started now to like get a rough edit. So I'm going to show you some of the basics for Fusion. So let's pick one of these shots. I guess we can just go with this last one. And how Fusion works is if you just quickly change into the Fusion tab, it will create a Fusion composition for the clip that is at your current kind of like playhead, right? Like this playhead. Whatever you see on the screen, it will go into Fusion mode for that one clip. And that can sometimes lead to problems, because sometimes you will have an adjustment clip on top, right? For example, just quickly to show you, in effects here, we have this adjustment clip. And adjustment clips are super useful because we can kind of like put this on top of everything, for example. And then let's open more effects. Let's look for like a glow or something. Yeah, a glow. And we can drag that glow onto the adjustment clip. Let's change some settings here. Okay, so you can see now I have some sort of glow on top of everything because it's on this adjustment clip, and the adjustment clip, like in layer compositing, will affect everything that's below it. Yeah, so that's what's happening right now. But the problem there is if I go into the Fusion now, right, like I'm expecting to edit this this shot here now, and I go into the Fusion page, I'm actually not in the Fusion page of that one clip. I am in the Fusion page of the adjustment clip. So how do I get into the Fusion page of the clip itself and not of the adjustment clip? I can right click on it and go to open the Fusion page. So this way I can kind of like, make sure that I am in the right clip. And I would recommend to you guys to always do this, because sometimes it can happen that you just quickly switch to the Fusion page, do your effects, and suddenly you notice, oh shit, I did the effects on the wrong clip, like it's not on the clip that I wanted it to be on. So just to, kind of like avoid that, make sure that you always open the Fusion page by clicking on this Open in Fusion page. So I'm doing that. And now let's get into some basic node compositing features, tutorials. Because how node compositing works is quite different to layer workflows. Layer workflows typically are what we have here, right? Like we have the we have like all kinds of footage and they stack on top of each other, and the computer kind of like calculates from, like in this case, from the bottom to the top, right? Like one layer gets added and then the layer on top of it gets added and so on. But node compositing works different. It's not linear. It doesn't work from bottom to top. It works from in points to the media out point. So that means you can have multiple in points. For example, like this media in node is the footage that we have, right? But we can also add a background node here. Like this bar right here is kind of like some of the basic nodes that you would use every day. Just the very basic nodes. So if I click on background here, it creates a background node. And I can connect this node to the media out by clicking on this little square. This square on nodes is always the output, right? Like the finished image from whatever happens before. So I can click on this and connect it to media out. And now I see this background node. And I can change some values here in the background node. I can make it red, for example. And now the question is, how do I get things layered with each other, right? Like, because in layer compositing, I can just put something on top of another thing and it will be on top of it, right? It makes a lot of sense. But node compositing is a bit different. We need to use nodes to do everything. And to get things on top of each other, we need a merge node. That's this one here, merge. We click on that, and then it automatically adds it after the node that we have selected. I want to show you quickly a different way to add nodes, because it's super useful. You can just press Control space, and then this little select tool opens up, and then you can just type in whatever node you want, like merge, press enter, and then you got it. This is just a really quick way to add nodes. It's very, very useful. So we got this merge now. And you see this merge has different endpoints, right? It's got a orange one, it's got a green one, it's got a blue one. And all of these do different things. If you hover over them, you will actually see on the bottom of the screen here what kind of input that is. Oh, it actually pops up over there. Okay, that's cool. So this is background, this is foreground, this is effect mask. And you kind of like might understand now what this is doing, because this goes into the background input, right? So if I put this into the foreground input, it puts it on top of it, right? Which is not very easily visible right now because it's the same size, so it fully, it's fully opaque above the footage. To change that, like a basic feature, for example, is like moving things around, right? Like I want to move this color plane here around. I want to move it, make it smaller maybe. So the merge node has a built-in move tool. You can see, like if I select the merge, I get this like little gizmo here in the center, and I can scale it up and down. And you now see this is basically, doing what you want it to do in a layer compositing, right? Like it puts one object in front of the other. But a little thing I need to tell you is that you should not use the merge transformations, right? Because it might be straightforward, right? You can just like have this one node and move things around. But in node compositing, it's a bit better to have separate nodes for separate features and not have too much in one node. So for that, I will show you a new node. let's reset all these settings on the top here, merge one. So I'm going to select transform, and I'm going to add the transform node to this one. And this one basically does the same thing. It gives you all these gizmos and all these scales here. So you can do all of that, but you have a separate node for that now. So if I look, kind of like what you might want to make sure with node compositing is that, or what node compositing is also cool for, is that you can basically see what's happening from just looking at the nodes, right? Like I can see that there's this footage and there's this background, and then they're merged together, and it's being moved, like it's being moved in some way by this transform. So yeah, that's for me at least useful to just like have this transform as a separate thing, because then I know, okay, this thing is getting transformed. Yeah, just my own preference, I guess. Okay, let's talk about this blue input, because you can see all of these new nodes have a blue input, the effect mask input. And kind of to like demonstrate that, I'm just gonna select this background. And yeah, the blue inputs are basically masks, right? So you can cut things out, you can layer things on top of each other with specific shape. So for example, I want to turn this background into a sphere, right? It shouldn't be a cube, it should be a sphere. So I just select the background and I click on this create an ellipse mask, right? So now you can see I immediately have a sphere. And it added this node here, this ellipse node, and actually goes into the blue mask input of this background node. And that's maybe something else that's important to understand. So the difference here is now that I apply this ellipse before it gets transformed, right? So it's already an ellipse before it gets moved around. I could also, instead of putting it in here, by the way, if you hold down Shift, you can just disconnect the node and move it away. I can also plug it into this merge right here. And you see now the mask is being applied after the transform, right? Like kind of the merge itself has a cutout now. So if I move this around, it kind of like cuts it out. Yeah, it's not depending on the transformation of the background. It does its own thing, the way that it like composites one on top of the other. So that's very important to understand. And also in this node, you have a lot of cool options. You can do feathering, you can extend the borders, yeah, and you can also animate it. Maybe that's something I should get into now, like how to animate things. It's pretty straightforward, I think. Like you just click on one of these little, I guess, squares, like 45 degrees rotated squares, for whatever you want to animate. For example, I want to animate the position of this, right? So I click on the square for that value, and I move in time, I move that, and now you see I have in this timeline, I have these two little white markers, and if I play it back, it actually animates. So yeah, this is how you animate. To get a little bit more control over the animation, you can open up the keyframes editor. This kind of like gives you a different way of looking at keyframes. Or you can open up the spline editor, which gives you splines. But you always need to activate the ones that you want to see, because if all of them would be activated, it would be a chaos. So yeah, just activate the ones you want to see. And then you can change how they move. For example, right now it's very linear, right? Like it starts and stops very abrupt, but I can take these handles and I can make it like satisfyingly snap into place by doing something like this. Vroom. Yeah, that feels pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the basic of how you animate stuff. Let me look at my information here. If I set everything, mask, animation. Oh yeah, something important for animation is motion blur, because you want to have motion blur a lot of the times because it just looks better, right? So I'm going to reset this ellipse here. Okay, and then with this transform, I'm going to make this one animate now. I'm going to make this move from here to there. Then I'm going to make that soft again. Also, easy way to make it like a soft transition is by clicking, I think it was this button here. Yeah. And then we got a little bit softer movement. Yeah. Actually, I wanna make it a bit shorter. Like this. Yeah. Okay, how to get motion blur. So every node that can transform things and move things has a motion blur setting in the settings here. So you just switch to the settings of that node and you activate motion blur. And you can see immediately we have some nice motion blur. Yeah. It depends on like how quick objects move, because right now we can obviously see that there's motion blur, right? Like this is very obvious. So we need to increase the quality amount. Let's go with 6. Yeah, this is starting to look pretty good now. Alright. Okay, we got some nice motion blur on this now. Okay. Motion blur, we got that. I should maybe show you the text node too, because that one is pretty useful for just adding text. Yeah, we got this text plus node, and while we're at it, I'm going to show you something cool. You can also split this viewport into two, right? So you have like a right one and a left one, and I like to usually have the media output on the right side. That way I always see the final image on the right side. And then you can just select whatever you want to see on the left side. For example, I want to see the text even before I merge it with anything. I can just drag and drop it into the left window and I see whatever I do on that node. Right? So it's a really cool way to look at only specific parts of your composition and make sure that yeah, what you're working on is correct, right? So I can also just look at this circle here before it gets transformed, or I can look at it after it gets transformed. So yeah, really useful, very powerful. Okay, cool. So hello world. I can like change the size, the fonts, all that standard stuff. Okay, and now a little trick how to merge things quicker. You can simply drag the out point of one of the nodes into the output of a different node, and then it will create a new merge with those two nodes connected, which is super useful. But there could be something happening that you don't want. If you drag in, basically, you want to drag in the foreground node into the background node. Because if you do it the other way around, the background into the foreground, it will do it the wrong way. So if I connect it now, you don't see the text because the text is in the background. And the text should be in front, it should be in the foreground. So easy way to fix that is you can switch the foreground and background input very quickly with Control-T. Right, you see how it switches it, and now we have the text in the foreground. Yeah, very nice, very nice. I guess these are most of the basic features. I mean, the kind of like the tools up here are very similar to what we had in the other panels, in the other pages too. You can have your media pool here, so you can import footage directly into the Fusion comp. You have like the list of all effects here. Actually, this clips thing is interesting. This is pretty useful. This opens a little bar on the bottom here that shows you all the clips that you have in your timeline, so you can very quickly switch between the different shots and work on the effects on them very quickly. Yeah, metadata just shows you the metadata of the current composition, right? Like the format, the resolution, and the time code, not the time code, the frame rate. Oh, one more thing, you might have noticed me doing that. But you can use these little arrows on the sides to extend those panels, right? Like I can extend this all the way down. I can extend the media pool all the way down if I need some more space, right? So yeah. And something other that's pretty cool that you can do is, like you will notice, I can only have one of these, right? Only metadata or inspector. But if I extend this, I can actually have both. I can have two at once. Which is, yeah, pretty cool. But if I close it again, it's only one. So yeah, that's a cool way to work with a little bit more with the user interface. Okay, something I wanted to get into for you guys is working with 3D renders, because a lot of you guys are 3D artists, and I want to make sure you know how to work with, for example, Blender EXR sequences, right? So I'm going to go back into the edit page, and oh, you can see the glow layer here also adds nice glow to the text and the red dot, which looks kind of nice. All right, let's go back into our media pool here. And let's find a 3D render. 3D render hook punch. Okay, so this I've got two versions. I've got JPEG image sequence and the EXR image sequence. And you can see the EXR image sequence, it looks different to the JPEG image sequence. And that's because EXR is always a linear color space. That means it's a bit of a difficult topic, but it basically means that there's no definition of what's bright and what's dark. It's kind of like on an infinite scale of values. So, so it always will look a little bit different. A quick and easy and a little bit dirty way to fix this is you can go and do a right click on this clip, go into LUT, VFX.io, and you can use linear to gamma 2.2 or 2.4. 2.2 will give you a little less contrast, I think. Let's try it. Let's put it on. Okay, now you see this now looks almost the same as the JPEG. Does it look exactly the same? That would surprise me. Let's see. I'll just put them on top of each other and then with D deactivate it. Okay, it looks a bit different, but like not much. Let's actually try the other one. The LUT VFX.io 2.4. Okay. Okay, I guess the 2.2 is a little less contrast then. Okay. And this technique might work for you. Like this is quick and dirty and effective, efficient. It totally works, but actually the correct way to do this is, let's disable this LUT again. So the correct way to do this is go into Fusion, and we need to add a OCIO color space node. And with this one, we need to go in here, OCIO config, and browse into our Blender installation folder. Most 3D softwares come with a color space, like their own color space that they use. Like, I guess 3D render engines, they come with their own color space. So for Blender, I'm going to go into my Blender installation folder, Blender Foundation, go into the latest version, the version number, data files, color management, and then we have this config.ocio. We select that, and then we need to select the source space, which is linear, should be linear Rec 709, and output space is, in the new Blender versions, we have AGX. The old one was Filmic. AGX looks a bit better with bright colors, so I'm going to use AGX Basic sRGB. And now we have the actual correct conversion from linear to a real color space that we can look at. So yeah, this is how you do it correctly, but honestly both ways work, but this one just gives you more data. This one doesn't break anything. This way it doesn't break anything. Okay, so I did that. Let me see. We got that. We got that. Oh yeah, something important also. If you use multi-layer EXRs, you have the choice. You have the possibility to choose your layer in here. If you select the media in point or the footage node, you have your node, your passes right here. So I've got my Z pass. I've got my noisy image pass. I've got my combined pass. And the composite pass, which all look pretty similar. But yeah, this is how you switch passes. Something that you might want to do, for example, with this is I'll have, of course, my combined pass here, and then I'll just copy paste both of these things. And I'm going to split this view, put this into viewer 1, and I'm going to use my mist Z pass to add depth of field, right? So I'm gonna add depth. The depth blur, was it this? I think so. Depth blur effect, and then... Oh wait, actually? I think there's even a better way to do this. If we go into Media In and switch to channels here, in the Z channel, we can actually select our missed Z pass. So now, depth blur should work. But it's not. Z-scale, does that have anything to do with this? Okay, it's starting to do something. Okay, I'm not sure why this is not working. Yeah, this is not working properly, but you can probably counteract that by using this. Size. Okay, I'm not sure why this is not working right now. Depth blur. Depth defocus. Z channel. Okay, defocus strength. No, this is not working correctly. Okay. Yeah, okay, something is not as it usually is, so I'm gonna let that out for now. Yeah, we can figure that out another time together. But yeah, this is basically how you work with multi-layer XR sequences from Blender. Okay, let's go into the remaining pages. The next one is the color page, which you can use to color your edit and your video. So for that, I'm gonna get rid of this adjustment layer because it could be a bit confusing right now. Get back to the color page. Okay, so you can also have a timeline view here, so you can kind of like see and scroll through your timeline. Or you have this clip view, which lets you see all the clips in your timeline, which is for color grading actually fine. It's a bit better for color grading in my opinion. But yeah, so yeah, you can select any of these clips, and then the color grading works also with nodes similar to Fusion, but these nodes are much simpler. Because most of the time you are just adding nodes in sequence, and then you kind of like want to have some nodes do a specific thing, so you can see how it looks with or without it. So for me example, I'm gonna add a new node. I can just right click on the node and add serial. So now it added a new node after the first one. And I like to do that because I like to keep the first node empty, just to be able to go back into the front and add a new node, right? Because if you don't have a first node that's empty, it's a bit harder to add nodes in the beginning again. So I'm going to select the second one here. And then we have all these color grading tools down here. There's a lot of tabs with a lot of functions, but the main tabs are this color wheel here, where we can change a bunch of settings. We can change the temperature, color temperature, we can change the saturation, we can change the contrast here. Yeah, so just a bunch of basic settings. Also in these, maybe I should explain that, like lift, gamma, gain, and offset are basically kind of like the different brightness levels. So lift are the dark levels, right? So if I go down to this wheel here and I spin it up, you can see how everything gets brighter. So I want to kind of like keep this close to 0, but not completely. And then gain is the brightness, like the high points. So I want to spin this up to get everything a little bit brighter. And you can see the scope down here, it gets thicker, it gets wider. And then the gamma is basically the midtones. So you can kind of like change the contrast between like things looking darker or brighter. And then you can have also control over how those kind of like different ranges are colored, right? So you can color the bright points kind of like pinkish, the dark points a little bluish, and the midtones maybe like red. So it looks very funky, but it's interesting. It's fine. And offset kind of controls everything, right? So if I spin this up and down, everything gets brighter or darker. And also everything gets green or blue or whatever. There's also always like a reset button, right? On the top here, you have these little reset buttons for individual controls or the big reset button for the whole thing. Yeah, so this is one of the main tools. I'm going to create a new node now with Alt-S and just disable this one for now with Control-D. So with this one, I want to show you the other main function, which is the curves. So with this, you can, I guess most of you should be familiar with curves. So you can just like do your curve collecting in here, which gives you a lot of control over the contrast. So yeah, you can really dial things in really well with this tool here. The only problem, you don't have that much control over saturation with only this one curve. But that's where these ones come in. And these like additional curves are something that makes Resolve pretty unique. I mean, some tools have it now, but like you can basically control one value by using a different value. For example, I want to get the greens more saturated. I want to, oh, actually, let's use the red. I want only the red to be very bright red, right? Very saturated. So I can go into the hue versus saturation. And that means I'm using the hue. Hue is basically the color type, and versus saturation, it's changing the saturation of that color type. So now I can just click on the red, and it will add these 3 dots. It's a bit difficult to see now, but let's actually go with green then. Okay, I'm going to press on green, and it creates these 3 dots. And you can actually see in this spike that we have a lot of green, right? But yeah, it creates these 3 dots. And with the middle one, I can basically pull it up to make the green more saturated, or pull it down to make the green less saturated. So this gives you a lot of control over how your image looks, right? Because yeah, I might want the green to be like not existent, but the red, I want the red to be very red. So yeah, you can see like how much power this tool gives you. There's also a few ones that I usually like to use. For example, I'm going to create a new one. There's this luminance versus saturation. And this one gives you the control to make the blacks of the black parts of your image really, really black, like not saturated. For example, with our effect here, we had a lot of blue in the shadows, right? And if the footage came in like this and we didn't want that, we could use this curve here, the luminance versus saturation, by I like to put like kind of like a node in here, and then use the first node to like kind of lower the saturation in the dark parts, and then maybe add another one here, and you can kind of like see how we get those blacks back, right? Like especially here with her waist, you can see how this is not blue anymore, but it's black. So yeah, that's how we use that. Let me see if there's something else we should discuss. Oh yeah, something that's also really useful. For example, this effect that I have here, right? I only want that on the green screen, right? So I can go into the masking tool on the same node and then activate one of these masks. I have a square mask, so I can just like have a square cutout of this effect, right, of this node. And you can see now this effect will only apply in this part. I can also disable it really quickly again. This pen here is basically your own mask, right? So you can like paint your own mask. So I can just like do something like this. Like that. And then connect the end. And now I have only the green screen with that. And something that's also really useful is you can super easily track masks, right? Because this footage obviously is moving. so you want the mask to move with it. So you can switch over to this tracking mode here. And most of the time, you just need to click on this track forward and backward button, and it tracks it. Okay, in this case it didn't work because it tracked her movement. But yeah, I guess we can do a little example where we change the color. Wait, I want to reset this. Yeah, reset this. Okay, so I want to, for example, increase the... what's a good example? Because all these objects in this scene have very distinct colors anyway, so I don't need to use masks to do anything for the most part. But yeah, let me just show you the kind of the workflow anyways. I'm gonna add a new node. Okay, so theoretically, I want to make this mask brighter, right? So I can draw a little mask around the mask with this tool. Bum bum. Doom doom doom. Okay, nice. And then I can go and change whatever I want to change, right? I'm making it brighter. I'm making it more saturated. And then I can also feather these masks, yeah, right? So I can like feather it to be a bit softer. And then go into the tracking and click on the track forward and backward. And yeah, now you see it tracked it really well. So it stays in place. Yeah, it's basically seamless. I think it worked perfectly. Yeah. Yeah, I guess those are the main features for the color page. Yeah. There's also another page, like 2 more pages that we got. We got the Flarelight page, which is for audio editing. I don't think I should go into much detail here because audio editing is like a complete beast on its own, but basically, just so you know, you can really go into depth with audio editing and processing and even music composition. You can like connect a USB keyboard and some music plugins and produce music directly in Resolve, which is pretty crazy. Oh, Killua is here. What's up? What's up? So yeah, just so you know, you have the features here. Maybe we can do another specific workshop on Flarelight, but yeah, these are the basics. Yeah, and then at last but not least, we have the deliver page at the end here. And yeah, this just basically lets you export your video. Right, so wait, I'm going to click Z for scaling. So yeah, on the left you have all your render settings. You can just, for example, just click on the preset here, H.264 master. There's a bunch of presets up here, but most of the time I just click on this one, and then you can select your format, your codec, go to audio to like change your audio settings, and most of the time you don't really need to change much here. The quality setting here, you can change the quality, so if you do it lower like medium, the file will be smaller, but you should most of the time just go with best, because best really has a good quality and the files are not that big anyways. Yeah, so you can choose the export path here. I'm just going to go to download and resolve course test, and then you click on add to render queue. So this is a little strange because you don't always need a render queue, right? So it feels a little bit unnecessary, but basically you do add it to the render queue and then you click on render all right here. And yeah, now it renders it. And Resolve is also a really, really quick renderer, right? So it renders this out very quickly. The EXR sequence takes a little bit longer because it's more data. But yeah, that's basically from beginning to, from importing footage to delivering a final video. This would be the whole process. And there's a lot of things we can go into detail, so that's what I want to do next. If some people have kind of like questions or they want to learn about some specific thing in Resolve or Fusion, now's the time to ask those questions. Killua says, long time no see. Now I'm finally back on track and watch the school lessons. Nice, nice. He back. You You only came now though, right? I'll send you the link to the whole beginner course here so you can look at it again if you want to learn a little bit more about Resolve. Okay, he also wrote one quick off-topic question. Is it worth to render in 4K in Blender for a simple Insta-reel? Or is it overkill and Full HD will be enough quality-wise? Yeah, honestly, I think Full HD is totally enough. Like, honestly, I never render in 4K because, yeah, the maximum quality I render is Full HD, because if you need more than 4K, I mean, most of the time people will not notice the quality difference, and if you really need it, I basically always just work in Full HD, right? Like I have all my projects in Full HD and everything, and then if the client or me myself, I want a video to be 4K, I export from the editor in Full HD, and then I use tools like Topaz Video AI to upscale it, because working in 4K can be really a lot of pain. It's just so much slower, and you like have so much more render times. The whole workflow is much slower. So just work in Full HD, and then when you export it and you need more resolution, just AI upres the final render to 4K or even 8K. Somia wrote, is there some kind of proxy thing in Resolve? Like in Nuke, if we worked in 4K video, we can turn on the proxy mode and it compresses it lower res just for the viewport and smoother workflow. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into that a little bit. So, I don't think these files I have here have proxies, but you can work with proxies by, let's see, I think there's a way to generate proxies here. Yeah, proxy media. So, for example, right, like this one clip, you can generate a proxy media, and it will just do that really quickly. Just waiting a moment. You can also change in the settings of Resolve that Resolve should generate proxy media for all files that you import automatically in the background. So that's also really useful. But in my case, I just did it manually. So now you see we have this little proxy icon here. That means this file has a proxy, and we also see it in the timeline here. And Resolve will use either the proxy or the original, depending on what you have on the top here. So if you click on this, you can select if you want to have, prefer proxies, basically playback with proxies, prefer camera originals, basically playback with camera original, and you will also see that it changed from proxy to HQ, high quality, these symbols. So you always know what version you are looking at right now. Yeah, and then you can also disable all proxies, which basically disables the whole proxy system in general, like in just timeline-wise. Yeah, and then you can play back really quickly. Let's see, is there actually a part that's stuttering? For me, it's all playing back in real time anyway, so for me it's fine. But yeah, that's how you use it. Killer wrote, now a topic question. I know it's the first part of the Fusion beginner course, but it would be cool if you could show in the next lesson how to composite in Fusion with like the mist path and composite fog in there, etc. Yeah, I think I'm totally gonna do an in-depth 3D compositing tutorial with Fusion, because there's like so much crazy stuff you can do. There's like so many render passes that do really useful stuff. Like, for example, there's position pass, which gives you for each pixel the X, Y, and Z position. And then you can actually do three-dimensional masks. So you can create a mask around a head of a character, for example, and change the color of his head or something. So it's extremely powerful. I'll do a separate workshop for that. Samya wrote, I see, didn't know about this. How I used to do was going to project settings and manually putting down the resolution of the project and just putting the real resolution in the final render. I see. I guess that could also work. But yeah, this proxy workflow, I think, is definitely much easier to handle, right? You don't need to switch much things around. You just generate a few proxies, and then you can, on the fly, switch between original and proxy. Let me actually see if I have a 3D render where I can show you those different render passes. You guys can still write questions in the meantime. Let's see, projects. I don't remember how the project was called. But let me look on our Mori website. It should be listed there. Mori is, by the way, a production company that I started with a friend together. We did a lot of cool projects. Esports. Is it in here? No, it's not in the list. How was it called? Damn it. Samia also wrote, will you also be covering about how to use color spaces and how to convert from different color spaces? I struggle the most in that. Yeah, that's definitely something that I myself have not figured out fully yet. So that's something I want to get a professional on and kind of like have him give us a workshop. So I will also learn from it and like start to use it in my workflow. Yeah, so I cannot answer that for you right now, but I'll make sure that we have a workshop in the near future about that. Kilua asks, how will you structure these beginner courses? Like, how will you continue week by week with the Blender or the Fusion course? That's a good question. I feel like a few people are still kind of like not fully understanding the concept behind the beginner courses. So my whole idea with having the beginner courses is that I will get everyone started with the basics of these tools. And then after that, when they like saw the basics and they used the basics, they basically just go ahead and do what they want. And I will be there to like guide them along to like figure out what they want to get better in. So basically the beginner courses are for everyone together. And after that, it becomes more individual and focused on what everyone wants to learn and do on an individual level. A little bit more mentorship, I guess, right? But additionally to that, we're going to have those workshops, which will focus on specific parts. So I don't imagine there's going to be like multiple parts of courses. It will be mostly like, yeah, a beginner course to get everyone started, then workshops to like show like specific tools and like specific workflows and like very in-depth about specific things. So people who want to go in that direction can look at those workshops and interact with those workshops. But there is also a little more, I guess, specialized classes that I'm planning. For example, when it comes to Blender and 3D rendering, there is a plan of creating kind of like a week-long class for rendering realistic shots in Blender, right? So yeah, there's all kinds of plans to like expand from the beginner courses, but right now we're sticking with the beginner courses and then going individual because I I need to focus a lot on marketing right now, so I don't have a lot of time to do those workshops and classes additionally to what I'm already doing. But once the school is a little bit more self-sustaining and self-running, I want to make sure that we get a lot of workshops and classes in additionally to what we already have. Kilua says, oh, that's nice, but how will the individual sessions work? Should I just message you on Discord when I need help with something? Yeah, exactly. But not me personally, just like use the Discord server to interact with the community and the mentors and me to get help from whoever is available right now. So this is basically something that then the community and the mentors take care of. Oh, and I mean, if you're a student that's something actually that the daily classes are for, like the Create Together live streams that I do every day. Those are specifically for the student members to where I am able to like get into detail with the students on what exactly they want to learn and show them, and everybody can look at that and also learn something from that. So yeah, I guess that's how it works. Yeah, I saw that Spliff helped you yesterday. It's really cool that Kim is so active here. I made him an official mentor, so he's like officially helping people. And I also have a little system in place already where mentors can get a payout by helping others. I'm pretty proud of that actually. That I already had that set up. Like mentors gain experience points similar to how just normal users on the Discord get experience points, right? Like you get level ups and stuff, and mentors get separate experience points to that, and they can basically exchange those points for a payout. So yeah, I already have a system in there for mentors to gain some money on the side if they help others and just are active on the server. Yeah, any other questions about Resolve? Because if there's not more questions about Resolve itself, I would stop the Resolve beginner course and then begin the Create Together stream again in around 40 minutes at 18 ECST. All clear. All right. All right, guys. Yeah, thank you for joining then to the very first Resolve beginner course. I hope you learned something, and yeah, just keep us posted on your progress. Just share anything you're doing in the Discord server, and yeah, we're happy to give you feedback and help you improve. So I'll see everyone in around 40 hours for the Create Together livestream. Wait, there's one more text by Killua. If you have time, would be cool to show real quick the different layers like the mist stuff in Fusion. Otherwise, we do it next week. Okay, I actually did it a little bit. I'll send you the